Okay, movie magic, we are back. So one thing I'm going to start with is, and it's probably a little hard to see on the video, but I had some very light blue areas just across some of these snow, just to look a little bit like shadows. So I'm going to do that first so that it has a chance to dry so that we can go back and do these twigs. And that was just a really light smattering of cobalt blue. So I'm just going to add like pretty much just dirty water. So we're going to test that so you can barely see that. That's what we want. And it's just in a couple of areas. It doesn't really kind of matter where. Just sort of to show some shadow, to make it look dimensional. You can always add more later on too. All right, so it's just a little bit. And we'll just let that dry. So while that's drying, we're gonna go to our warm sepia, or sepia warmed up with burnt umber maybe. Some sort of a warmer but darker brown. And we're just basically gonna then paint in these trees. So this is what I was saying before, any place where your sky went over your trees, not a big deal, because we're just gonna end up painting right over it anyway. And the sepia is much darker than the sky, so. And the trees do not have to be perfectly straight. They don't have to be perfectly anything. And we want them relatively dark. Certainly not black, but dark. This is going to bleed in. I can see that already. My blue snow got a little close to my tree there. All right, so just basically filling these areas in one by one. Where this is overlapping, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to paint over it. So these branches are overlapping one over the other. Trying to keep my hand out of the way. So that's the one sort of difficult thing that I've found about doing these videos, is that I'm trying to keep my hand out of the field of vision so that you can see what's happening. Where I really want to be painting like this, so I'm trying to keep out of the way. So I'm doing my best to keep my hand out of the way so you can see what's happening. Now here I ended up having to make my trunk a little wider than my drawing actually, because of what happened at the top here. I got a little wide, so we're just gonna go with it. We're just gonna go with the flow. Just one by one, methodically moving across the landscape, getting all these trees painted in. So I'm outlining it, and then I'm just basically filling it in. If you leave a little bit of white spot on your trunk, that's okay. And it sort of maybe mimics a little bit of snow sticking to the trunk. You know, like where it sort of blows and gets stuck on it. So if you leave some white spots, that's okay. That might even add to your composition a little bit, where it just looks like snow is sort of stuck to the tree. If you wanted to get really crazy, you could do our tree method where, you know, you outline the sides and then you suck the paint in with a damp brush. You could do that. It would give it even more dimension than these trees have. But it's not strictly necessary for this painting, so it's up to you. This isn't as much about the trees specifically detailed as it is about the composition as a whole with the shadows and all of the different elements that we're going to have, the little trees in the background and the twigs. It's more of a whole composition than it is specifically about the trees. So that's up to you. But you could certainly do that if you wanted to. You could be a little bit more elaborate with your trees. This tree got a little crazy here, so it's going to have to get a little wider. Notice I'm like totally not stressing if I kind of go out of the bounds or whatever. Like, this is a looser painting. It is detailed, but it's detailed in a looser way. So if you go outside of your bounds or miss a line or whatever, it's not at all a huge deal. Kind of adds a little bit to the overall composition, in my opinion, if it's not perfect. If you have like a little bit of white showing or a little bit of pencil line showing, I don't think it's gonna break anything at all. All right, a couple more. So this is where I need to learn how to speed this part of the video up so you don't have to sit there and watch me paint every single tree. But I will figure it out. I have to sit and learn about editing software, but I will get there. Oops, I got a little wide. That's right. This trunk got a little out of control. And now it's a little bit back in control. All right, a couple more. Yeah, this got out of control too. All right, so where that got a little thick right there, I'm just going to thicken this up, that's all. Like I said, just go with the flow. Life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. You mess up a line, you just make it a little wider, you make it work. All right, and then I have one more tree that's coming from the edge here. And the trees are painted in. I'm going to take a little bit of this one out because I think it's a little too dark. Lost a little bit of my house over here, but that's okay. I think that is okay. All right. So what I'm going to do from here is get the fuzz off my brush. I'm going to take the same color and I'm just going to draw some branches coming off of some of these trunks. So it doesn't look like there's just, oops, trunks. Just stumps. We don't want stumps. We want trunks. Trunks with branches. This got a little out of control too. All right. Fix that, no problem. So just a couple of little branchy lines. And this is one of the reasons why I like this brush so much, because it's like I don't even have to change brushes. Same brush, completely different action. Just some twigs, branches. They can be broken a little bit. They can be solid. They can be crunchy and crooked. They can be nice and fluid, right? So they can be sort of sticky, like that. And then pay attention to which tree is in front of which tree. So this tree on the left is in front of this second tree. So I can put branches over the second tree, and that makes sense. This tree is in front of all of these trees. So I could do a branch off of this tree and have it go over everything, and that would make sense. So you have to know where your tree lies in the grand scheme of things. Who's in front of who? This tree right here, the Y tree, is in front of all these trees in the background because they're further back. So again, I can do a branch that dissects all of them. And that would make perfect sense. These trees in the back, you know, they're behind. So their branches would appear to be behind all these trees. So anyway, as many as you want, as few or as many as you want. The next thing that we're going to do with the same color, maybe a little bit more water, a little lighter, is we can take that same color and make some branches coming out of the back. So these are your trees that are in the background that are standing in this woodsy area back here. Again, sorry, trying to keep my hand out of the picture. Random branches, twiggy stuff coming out from behind the snow, maybe from behind the tree. Not the tree, what is this? A house? It doesn't have to be a ton. Could be a few, could be a lot. They don't even have to match your color, because the color, the green color, is really more or less the evergreen trees. These branchy things that we're making are more deciduous trees, trees that have no leaves on them. So they do not have to match the height of the green at all. And you can have some twiggy stuff at the bottom. that just sort of goes into nowhere. So this is just a fun little drawing. You could also do this with a marker. So if you're feeling a little stressed out about these thin lines with paint, you could do them with your paint markers. That would eliminate all of that. All right, so again, as few or as many as you would like. So this part that I did in front now, the snow is dry. So what I can do is actually the same exact thing with the same exact color in the foreground. And make these little branchy guys. But I'm going to use my burnt umber instead so that it's not quite as dark. So it's a little bit more of a twiggy type of a color versus a tree trunk. Right, and we're just gonna, again, marker would be perfect for this. We can have one coming out of the snow. Some out of the foreground, like they're down below. Some maybe bent over, coming back towards the bottom a little bit. There's really no rhyme or reason to this. These are just little twiggy, branchy little whatever they are. Perfect for a marker. If you want to do the marker at the very end, you could totally do that. All right, again, as many or as few as you want. You will have one coming in from the side over here. Ooh, that got really, really wide. All right, so how do we fix that? We'll take some clean water and we'll try to dab some of that up. Even a wet paper towel. Dab it up. So we'll have to let that dry before we go back to it. We'll try to cover that up with some twigs after it dries. So at this point, I think this is dry enough to do the house. Now, I did not do the house in the first one, so I did not even pick a color for the house for the first one. So I think I'm going to mix maybe a burnt sienna and a red to make sort of like a barn color. All right, so there's my burnt sienna. Maybe a little bit of cadmium red. I'm actually going to put a little bit of alizarin crimson in there too, so I'll have to revise my color choices with you. Oh, that's better. That's pretty. I like that. So the sun is over here. The shadows are this way. So this side of the house is going to be lighter than this side. This side will be in more shadow. And the other side will be more in the light, the sunlight. Which just basically means more saturated color on this side. And less saturated on the front side. And this is just a shape. We're just coloring in a shape basically. And the roof is going to be white. We're going to leave the roof white. When it's dry enough, we're going to do a couple little blue shadows across it maybe to sort of show that there's snow there, so that there's a shadow. So we're going to let this dry. I think we can come back to this branch now and just sort of try to maybe fix that a little bit. Maybe put something coming out of there. Sucking a little bit of that up because it's a little dark. Okay, so there, kind of fixed it. Looks good. Maybe a couple of twiggies here to cover that up. Some grass maybe. Right, grass coming out of the ground. So wherever these guys are coming out of the ground now, it would probably be a great idea to go ahead and grab a tiny bit of cobalt again, like that dirty water cobalt, and just do a little shadowy area so that it looks like they're grounded. So anywhere there's something coming out of the ground, you kind of want to make a shadow so it looks like it's coming out of the ground. So let's see, what else can we do before the other side of our barn dries? We could actually do some shadows up here, but they're going to be a lot lighter than the ones on the ground. They're going to be like super duper light. Just a couple little just a little something to show that there's snow here. Just in the interest of time, I'm sucking a little bit of this up so it dries a little quicker. It's also giving a little bit of texture, which is kind of cool. So in order to make that look even more three-dimensional, we could actually add a tiny, tiny bit of burnt umber. Tiny, tiny bit under the eaves to make it look like a shadow. So that'll make it even more dimensional. The only other thing we would have to do is finish the front of the house, which I don't know if this will be wise to do now, but we can try it. So we'll have to leave a little bit of a line between the two reds so that they don't bleed together. And I took most of the paint off of this, so it's pretty light. And we do have a little door. So I guess I'll leave that open and I'll have to come back and do that like a darker color when everything is dry. There is our little house slash barn with our trees around them. What I may end up doing at the end, some of this might be dry enough. Let's just give it a whirl. I was kind of thinking about maybe doing a little bit of acrylic to create some snow on top of the branches a little bit. I didn't try it on the other one. Let's just see how it looks. This will be an experiment. So maybe in the crook of the tree here. this tree here. So like anywhere there's an upright, you can just dab a little bit of snow. Just as if it fell recently. Here's a big branch right here. It will also then help some of these trees look like they're closer to the front. This is totally optional. You don't have to do this. All right, so now this branch is definitely sitting on top of, in front of, pardon me, these other trees. Gives a little bit more dimension. I don't want to go too crazy with the snow. This did get a little dark though, so maybe I'll throw a little bit up there. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of think that's enough. Just enough, not too much. You can also do a little bit of snow on the trunk if you want to. So some of these trunks that didn't get some white on them or left on them, you could actually put a little bit of white on them too if you wanted to. Or you could leave them alone. I think I'm going to kind of opt for leaving them alone. If I can get it off. Don't know. See, the acrylic is not completely dry, so it's a little bit easier to get off there. I can just go back in with some brown and cover that up. All right, so that's it. I'm not going to mess with it anymore. That is our snowy tree barn. The only thing I have to do is put that door in when it's dry. And I will see you guys on Tuesday. Have a good rest of your day.